Kelly said a whole. She
Yeah,
touched on so many
yes,
things.
yes. Kim, I was like, I'm amening and clapping and snapping to everything she just said. And I think that the other person was saying to make sure you take care of your mental health, because I think that when you're in toxic environments, if it's just one person, okay, but there are toxic environmental cultures that are not conducive to your health and success. And so therefore you need to leave, you need to depart. It's not just a conversation where you're pulling somebody to the side or you're constantly doing that or constantly fighting. I've definitely been in spaces where you feel like I am fatigued from having these conversations. And then when I get home, I'm irritated. I'm not the best wife, mother, sister. I'm kicking the dog. Okay, not really. Don't call Pete on me. But people, these are the things that happen, and people don't realize that dis-ease in your soul. I say that's disease, right? And I feel like you have to do something about that to address it to protect your own mental and emotional health. So kudos for you for finding and prioritizing a company and not being afraid to leave, because sometimes it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I definitely don't have a leaving problem. Like the people who know me on this panel know I don't have a leaving problem. I leave.
I learned leaving from Kelly. I learned. I said, "But Kelly, you just started." She's like, so I gotta do what I got." I said, "Oh, just like that." I said, "Okay," and that started. I learned that from Kelly, and it's a real thing. You got to evaluate that for yourself. I had a gentleman that reached out to me that worked at a previous company, and he said, "You treated me so well, or you engaged with me. You made me feel comfortable. I felt like I wanted to reach out to you and ask you. I started this job. I've been here 4 or 5 months. The boss is like this, and this." And that was one of the first questions. I said, "Did you address it with him? Did you tell him? Did you share your feelings?" He said, "Yes, but he keeps on apologizing. And the very next day, he does it again, just like we never had a conversation." And I said, "You've been doing this for how long?" He said, "I've been here 6 months, 3 months. For the past 3 months, it's been the same thing." I said, "Okay, well, did you try taking it to HR up the ladder?" He said, "I did, and they're on his side because he's been there forever." So they leave him there, right? And I was like, "Oh my gosh." I said, "Well, it sounds like it's time for you to leave." He's like, "But I just started. I don't want it to look on my resume." You see how the notion and the ideas. Like, anybody want to jump in on that before we leave this conversation?
So actually, I like to work, and there was a period where I was transitioning jobs, and I actually remember a recruiter telling me that because now all of the jobs were concurrent, but because of the number that I had on my resume, that it did not look good. Um, but at the end of the day, I I learned early on because I've always been the outlier. I've got locks, I've got tattoos. If you know me well, I am dancing. I fortunately or unfortunately will break into song in the middle of a conversation with a patient. I'm not the norm. I don't fit in. And so a lot of times what you realize is status quo average is just whatever whoever you're around. As you move through different circles, the average changes. And so I can choose the greatest power that any person will learn, but if you're talking about employee or professional, is just like someone can term you for 90 days without cause, you also have that right. And just if you're truly concerned, I've also the philosophy that if it wasn't impactful, then I don't have to put it on my resume because really and truly, what were these 3 months? It's like dating in the professional arena. I mean, let's get to know each other. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, thank you for the opportunity. But everything is a lesson not just professionally, but also as you establish those professional boundaries of what you will and will not accept, what is negotiable and not negotiable. Um, I'm not going to sacrifice myself or my family for anything. So
Just one more thing, and
Yeah.
you have to have us. You have to be able to tell your story. Why are you looking to leave this company? Why are you looking for another opportunity? And I always say to people, okay, yes, I was here for a short time, but there's no one that can say I did not add value. Whether I was there 2 days, one day, I was adding value through as I came through the door. So you know that you bring your skills, you solve problems, you know what you bring to the table. So you just need to always be confident in that when you're when you're talking to a potential employer, like, these are the things I can fix. Like, at the end of the day, like, this is the type of world we're in. People are getting laid off left, right, and center. Like, there's no stability. So you need to be able to go out and get the work environment that you want. Be always ready to move to your next opportunity. Always have your resume ready. Always have your LinkedIn updated. Like, always be showing how you're adding value, and make sure you document and can call on specific situations when you added value, how you add value, what did you do to add value to create change, whatever you do. But like, that's what I always tell people, like, no matter, I always have good relationships with the companies that I leave, because nobody can say, oh, she did not add value or did not do what you said she was going to do, because I'm big on doing what I say I'm going to do, right? So I held up my part, you didn't, so I'm out.
I just want to piggyback off that too.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that, right, like you said, jobs, there's like a 90-day probationary period, right? And then you see the whole, oh, we're like a family. Your job is not your family. Period. Your job is not your family, because when business needs come up and when they have to do the layoffs, I was a product of a layoff at another company. It doesn't matter what value you brought, what programs you created, you're out of there. You know what I mean? So we have to put ourselves first. If you are in a toxic environment, leave. You know, if a better opportunity comes that's more aligned with where you're trying to go, okay, hey, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to go this route. And we can't feel bad about it because they would do it to us.
Dr. Chena, you want one more before we jump?
Yeah, I just had to, because she just hit a nerve. That was good. I mean, I think that, like, for me, one of the things that someone gave me advice a long time ago is they said, always be aware of your season and don't let your season pass you by. And I'm always whether it's winter, summer, spring, or fall, I know what season I'm in, and I'm not going to let it pass me by. I'm not going to be in a winter state or winter season like, man, where's my harvest? My harvest ain't there. I should have left a long time ago. That was my indication that I should have gone to greener pasture somewhere else. So anyways, I wanted to share that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Oh, if that wasn't for nobody else, that was for me. That was for me. So we're moving on to the second topic, the third topic, I should say. Challenges faced by marginalized groups, right? Communities, from women of color, BIPOC, to LGBTQ, to veterans, to disability, you name it. Have you guys had any experience? What have you experienced, and what would you advise someone facing such a thing?
My connection's not. It's going in and out, so I may go out, but I'm going to tread this topic carefully. I went into the healthcare industry to advocate for the people who look, who talk, who think like me, and are often misunderstood in health. There is a specific experience that comes to mind where we were evaluating a patient for a life-sustaining treatment. And the person who was educating came into the office and was just frustrated. And she was like, I don't know why we're wasting our time. They're not even paying attention. Why are we wasting our time? They're not even learning. And so because I'm a nurse, nurse practitioner, I always start off with the assessment, always ask the question. So I was like, what do you mean? How do you know they're not learning? And the other thing is, always have someone else who can be objective assess. So I was like, let me come with you. Let me see. So we went to the training. I was like, hey guys, I'm just here, wanted to kind of meet you in case I have to train so you can meet, I gave a reason as to why I was there. And her perspective was that the person in question was down looking at their phone, wasn't paying attention. I mean, they weren't making eye contact. They weren't doing a lot of things that Western professional society says indicates attentiveness. And so I tapped on the shoulder, I said, let's just check. We gave you a lot of stuff. want to make sure that you're keeping up. I don't want to dump on you. Let's just assess. Um, and then when we did it, this person was able to answer every question correctly. Every question we asked, she spit it out as if she were reading the book. And then she looked up and she said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm on my phone because I can't just sit there and pay attention. So like I have to have a level of activity so that I can pay attention." And so the first thing is, and that's just one of the many stories of how I've filled this role for people in the healthcare industry. But always start off with assessment. Always understand that your perspective is your own. I'm Haitian. And so I'm gonna tell you right now, if you go into a Haitian household and you make direct eye contact with an elder, that means you want to fight. And so when I started my first job and I got written up because I wouldn't make eye contact, luckily for me, my manager at the time was like, "You won't even look at me." And I said, "Because in my culture, that's aggressiveness." And I was able to verbalize that, but some people don't even understand to verbalize. And some people are so afraid of conflict, which is not inherently bad, that they won't even have those conversations. So understand and always ask, advocate for yourself in the proper way. And I people often say assume good intent. For me, I had a challenge with that because I was like, "Well, I got assume good intent, and you're not." I I say figure out what it means from their perspective. Because when my 5-year-old says something and my 3-year-old says the same thing, it has two different meanings. And so always figure out what it means from that person's perspective. But fortunately and unfortunately, I've been the mediator and connector of cultures and marginalized groups with this system called healthcare.
Wow, I don't know. I can't add nothing to that because you went up, down, left, right. Anybody else? Dr. Chayla, before we move on?
My research primarily has been on health disparities. And so I totally feel what she's saying. I actually used to supervise a group of health promoters. And I remember one time we were doing diabetes education awareness, community outreach, and they were doing at home visits. And one of the health promoters was like, "Shayla, I went to this lady's house. I'm telling her she has diabetes." And she's like, "I don't have diabetes." And she's fighting with this lady about, "I don't have diabetes in Jesus' name." And so he's like, "What is this lady talking about? Her numbers say she has diabetes." And so I had to explain to him from a faith perspective, she is not claiming that she has diabetes. So you sit up there arguing, yelling at her, saying you do have diabetes, and getting into arguing a match with this lady about her condition because you don't understand her perspective and where she comes from. And oftentimes when I'm doing these cultural sensitivity training seminars that we do all across the country, these are the kind of examples I'm pointing out and how people have cultural differences. And before you just assume, we know those first 3 letters, right? What that means, don't make that out of yourself. So I think that like it's very vital to, like you said, ask some key critical questions.
On point. Anybody else before we move on? Okay.
Yeah, I do. I
Oh
want to
yes,
add.
Coretti. Absolutely.
Yeah, I just want to add really quickly that, like, I think an area that like isn't often talked about is the challenges that we, and when I say we, I mean people, you know, not the majority group, right? So people of color, women, those that are in the LGBTQ group, neurodiverse